What we mean by business is an infinite game is that there is no winning at business. If you listen to a lot of leaders today, they talk about being number one, they talk about beating their competition, they talk about their rankings and their ratings, and we're obsessed with competition, we're obsessed with comparing ourselves to one another, but it's really a depressing way to live. You think about being number one, whose metrics, what time frame, what's the end point? I know many organizations who are number one, but their people are miserable. So what we mean by the infinite game, as opposed to the finite game, is the infinite game is the game that you play not to win, it's the game you play to endure. It's the game you play to continue playing the game itself. In the finite game, there are fixed rules, known players, and there's an agreed upon objective. Once it's over, like hockey, you play 3 periods. Whoever has the most goals at the end of 3 periods, they're the winner. Let's go home, we're done. In the infinite game, there are known and unknown players, meaning your competition, sometimes you know about them and sometimes you don't. The rules are always changing. Sounds a lot like business. Business is not a finite game, it's an infinite game. And the objective of the infinite game is to keep playing the game. What we're seeing is too many companies are playing by finite rules in an infinite game. And what happens when you play by finite rules in an infinite game is you end up in trouble, you end up in some sort of quagmire. You end up either running out of the will or the resources to continue playing the game. And the proof, the evidence is right in front of us. So many companies aren't lasting as long as they should. GE just gets delisted from the Dow Jones. The average time spent on the Fortune 500 has gone from 33 years to 14 years. They say that in the next 10 years, 80% of the Fortune 500 is going to be replaced. Where are all the old companies? And what happens is, those who are playing by finite rules in an infinite game, they end up in some sort of difficulty. They run out of the will or the resources. And what does that look like? Bankruptcy. What does that look like? Mergers and acquisitions. They run out of the will or the resources, so they have to combine with others. Again, where are all the old companies? They're just dying off. And I think the mistake that so many leaders are making today is they're so worried about their competition that they forget why they are in business. What is your just cause? The point of being in business is to advance your just cause. Making money, being profitable, that's just a result. It's understood that every single business needs to be profitable. I get that. But what beyond just making a profit? What is the reason beyond your products and your services that your company exists? And I think too many companies, too many leaders, they've just got it wrong. They're thinking short-term, finite. How can I win this quarter, this month, this year? And they're sacrificing so much along the way. And the first thing that they sacrifice are really their people. The infinite game and how one can deal with the infinite game from an HR perspective and the HR role, I think it really does start with your mindset. And the mindset is, how do I move away from this sort of transactional nature of HR, which I think HR has been stuck in a transactional role for many years, for a very long time. I've worked in training and facilitation, and so I've interacted with a lot of people in HR. How do I move away from the transactional to more of the leadership, and how do I help leaders create environments and get it right so that we have something that everyone believes in, so people are willing to give their discretionary energy. So really the first solution and the first step is, how do I myself adopt this infinite game mindset so that I can help others adopt the infinite game mindset? And then you start getting into, the checklist and the 5 elements of what it means to play the infinite game. We all understand you need will and you need resources, but then there's also the checklist. And that's when you start going through, okay, do we have a cause that everyone believes in? Because if we don't, then why are we here? Because if it's just to make money, if it's just to grow, growth at what cost? Growth for what reason? We have to give people a reason to care. Do we have trusting teams? There are so many measurement tools out there to to gauge and assess performance. There are so few tools to measure and assess trust. And how do we build trust in an organization? How do we create trusting teams so that people feel safe to take risks and innovate? Do we have the courage to lead? Do we have leaders who are setting the tone and casting the shadow? So goes the leader, so goes the culture, so goes the culture, so goes the organization. So I think there's this whole people side of HR that we are not investing enough emotional energy into it. We're just doing it. I've been to those workshops. I've been to those sessions. This is maybe going to sound a little too challenging, but if I go to one more leadership conference where the leaders are not there, it's just they're coming in and they're coming out. They're gracing us with their presence for 3 minutes. They're not paying attention. I was recently at a leadership conference where the leader, the senior leader, is sitting at the back of the room on their phone the entire time. What message are we sending to our people if at a leadership conference the leaders are not themselves paying attention? Basically, the message that they're sending is this isn't important. You don't have to pay attention either. I think too many leaders are putting themselves up on a pedestal when really they should be putting their people up on a pedestal. How do we create those kinds of environments? Because when we create those kinds of environments, when we get it right, the people are going to work tirelessly to bring that vision to reality. You get the conditions wrong, and people just spend all of their energy protecting themselves from each other. So I think there is a lot of work that can be done from a culture point of view. And it can't be mechanical. It has to be from a real human perspective and getting buy-in and engagement from the top. If the leaders are not willing to walk the talk and set the tone and cast the shadow, nothing else matters.